Hello. So just 30 seconds ago, I remembered, hey, how about groceries today? Where are those? Oh shoot, I left them in the car in the heat. Fortunately, there was nothing heat sensitive, nothing refrigerated, nothing frozen in there, so it's all fine. But can't believe I forgot. How embarrassing. Um, I was just thinking, I'm low on flour. Wait, didn't I buy flour today? And in fact, yes, I did. I bought flour today. I don't have that jar up here anymore where the gentleman used to live. There you go. Nice. So yeah, I just ran out and grabbed my my hot bag of groceries and brought it in. On to what we're doing today. Today we are making bread. Um, I made bread last Saturday, and it made those two nice loaves. And I said, well, I wish I baked them a little bit longer, and also had the problem of there being two loaves. I don't need two loaves. Home baked bread doesn't keep super long. So I got through the first one, but the second one got thrown out because it went moldy before I got into it. So that was a loss, a fail. So what I need is a recipe for one loaf of bread. Um, and also that recipe, I ended up having to add a bunch of flour to it, and I felt like it needed to be. It was supposed to be a no-knead recipe, but it felt I wanted it to be a little chewier. So we're going to use it as a basis, but I'm kind of going to try making my own bread method today for a same day basic white bread. And that's the plan. And then because of course bread needs to rise and then bake and then rest and all that sort of stuff, I was planning on making a fish soup in between. So let's get started on the bread. Got our handy dandy scales. Bookwoman. Um, welcome in. My handy dandy scales, my handy dandy large glass dish, and my flour. And oh, I actually start the yeast because that was the thing that was different about the method for me before was it was a yeast that had been sugar yeast. So let's get the water heating up. We want it quite warm but not super hot. So tap water hot should be fine. I'm gonna roll out some tap water hot. Squish that fruit fly. We're gonna get some tap water hot water. So just the heat of whatever came out of my tap. Battery's dead on that thermometer. I'm just going to check the temperature on it just to see what we're working with. 105. 105 is pretty good, honestly. That should wake up our yeasts pretty well. So I'm positive that that other recipe, the quantity was based around the standard yeast packet, which I don't use yeast packets. I use a jar of granulated yeasts. I should get the sugar in there first, get it dissolving. I do have that recipe up here so I can look back at it, but we're not following it. We're using it as a starting guide, so I need sugar. That's half a tablespoon of sugar, which we will stir around and get nice and dissolvey. And to that, we will add 1 teaspoon of yeasts, which is and let's get that stirred as well. Get them all up in there. And then that just needs to kind of hang out and rest for a while and not be stuck to my stick here. Okay. Warm water, some sugar, and some yeast to get it started. Let it go bubbly. Let the yeasts wake up. We don't need the sugar anymore. So what I'm trying to do is find the balance between a fast bread and an easy bread. So I'm low on flour, but I did just buy some flour. So we'll see how much I got before I crack into the new one. Oh, we got plenty. I'm shooting for 400 grams as a starting point. We overshot it just a hair by 4 grams. And I'm going to call that close enough. So that's not cut in half from the other recipe because I ended up having to add so much extra flour just to make it stick together enough. So that's more than half of the other recipes worth of flour. To which I will add the salt. That's a 1. And they had me measure out the salt. I feel like it's just, 3 decent pinches, maybe a tiny bit more than that. I don't feel like you need to measure out the salt quite so perfectly. And that's all the ingredients of the bread. We just need to wait for the yeasts to get foamy and wake up, which they're doing here on the side. Fortunately, it's pretty warm in the ambient here, even though I've got the air running in the next room over. So while that is getting started, I'll probably end up keeping this bread in the fridge anyways because of the just summer heat. Things want to go off pretty quick. Where are we? We're gonna try making a fish soup because now the fish soup is because first of all, I think that fresh bread goes really nicely with some soup. as one of the many things bread goes with. Soup is one of them. But also I've got some stocks, including fish stock, that need to be used up before they go off. Stocks don't keep forever. In fact, they don't keep terribly long at all. So we got to get to them. So we're going to get to them. This I have a recipe, which we will be roughly, approximately following. Rough approximately. Kind of hybridizing a clam chowder with a fish stew kind of thing. Board out. Bacon. Oh, actually, we could do it with chicken. We're gonna do it with chicken. I've had these for a while. There's my homemade fish stock, what's left of it, which we're going to use up today. I've had these since I made them, and they aren't getting any better, and they aren't getting any worse. It's chicken skin bits that I fried, and they're as crispy as, if you can see if we can get one long enough to snap, do it by the camera, or by the microphone. Probably wasn't loud enough. They're basically bacon bits. They're chicken skin bacon bits. Now, they don't have the smokiness or the saltiness because it was just some chicken skin. But it was chicken skin from a grilled chicken that was grilled over an open fire. So there's some smokiness in there just because there was literally smoke in it. I think we'll use those in place of bacon in our recipe, which means we don't need to start by cooking bacon in the pot. Instead, where do we start? Normally you'd have bacon cooked in the pot to grease it. Seeing as I'm going to use chicken bits, I guess we're going to just use butter. I guess we just use butter. Or actually, we don't have to. I have a little bit of reserved bacon drippings. So we can still use the bacon drippings as the fat in the pan. Nice. Okay. When you cook bacon, especially if you're cooking bacon for a recipe, but also if you're just cooking it on the stove, it produces a lot of fat, which if you pour it into a nice heat-proof jar and put it in the fridge will solidify, and you can use it as a sautéing fat. Or for constructing a roux or all sorts of things. And it shouldn't go down your kitchen sink anyways, so it'll clog up your pipes. It's one of those things, oops, I'm the wrong angle. It's one of those things where you should just do it. So we're just gonna sort of scrape out the bottom of this. Start some bacon in my pan. If you do keep bacon in your fridge, bacon drippings in your fridge, make sure they are in an airtight container, as they will go stinky on you if you don't. Let's see. Bacon's just starting to melt, and so I didn't use that board yet, so we will reserve that. should probably preheat our oven too. So we're going to want to bake. My yeast is foamy, so I'm going to put my oven on to preheat, and then we're going to combine our yeast and our flour. And we're going to have some sanity here. Okay, last time I dove in with my hands like a fool. This time I'm getting a wooden spoon ready, and we're going to start with wooden spoon stirring until it comes together. And we're going to try to move a little slow at the start so I don't do what I just did there and spill flour out the edge. We already had an issue with it not having quite enough flour the last time, which is why we've adjusted the numbers. Get that spoon scraped down a little bit. Okay, it's still too sticky to put my hands in for sure. We're looking for it. It's going to be a soft dough, and it's going to be a little bit shaggy, but we want it to be holding together in one piece, and we want to be able to kind of create a surface for it. And it is coming off my fingers pretty easily, so I think we might have gotten our ratios pretty good. Okay, it's looking good. It's looking good. At this point, I've done enough breads that I have a general grasp on what a good-looking bread looks like, or a dough is supposed to look like. Get that scraped down. Shouldn't have taken my flour tower back to the shelf. So my quest here for bread is because in the past I've had a no need overnight recipe. The trouble being, it's overnight. If I want bread the same day, I can't have it. It's not really sticking to the spoon anymore. Get myself all floured up here and get this all combined. Flour tower is in the way. Get out of the way, flour tower. So yeah, that's what we're trying to make, a bread that I can make in one day, same day. So like if I want bread, if I wake up in the morning and discover I don't have bread, and I want bread, I can bread. And then have it by lunchtime, potentially. does definitely make a sticky dough, but I think that's inevitable with a low kneading dough like this. And I'm not planning on kneading this one heavily. I'm going to knead it a little bit. In fact, I probably should get it to the point where I can knead it now, because you should knead it, I think, before the rise, but I still want it to be nice and tender. I liked how soft and tender that bread was. I just wish it was a little bit airier. So we just want to push a little bit of structure into it, not a lot. Because also, the more structure it has, the harder it is for the yeasts to rise it, because they got to push against the structure. Okay, it's not perfect. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but we're going for rustic easy, not pretty. Okay, and then that's going to rise. Let's get the. It is fortunately just at the right stage where I can kind of rub my hands. And the my camera sagging? Yes, it definitely was. I can rub my hands and the bits of flour, the bits of dough, kind of come off. Although I'm still gonna have to wash. It's a little bit stickier than I want to deal with. Now I'm not gonna bother with a plastic. We're just gonna we'll plastic it. Change my mind. Change my mind mid-sentence there. Grab some cling wrap. Cover it up, let it sit to the side here, and yeast away. Wash our hands. Oh, shoot. My bacon fat is smoking, which is weird because I didn't have the temperature that high. Okay. Hands cleaned, tools away. Ad coming up in a few minutes. Let's come back over here. So my bacon fat went a little bit smoky. So we're going to let that cool off a scooch while I dice up vegetables. We're going to use up the remainder here of my saved frozen leeks. The flour tower on the side. Because they need to be used up. Most of them are already partially split. This guy's going to get split again. These are the leek tops from ages ago. They freeze quite well, and they are perfectly good. They just require a little bit extra cooking time compared to the leek bottoms. They're also occasionally a bit gritty. which, you know, that's just because plants grow in the ground. We discovered last time when we used the other part of my reserved frozen leeks here that they chop very easily directly from frozen as well, which honestly makes me want to get leeks more often, considering how easy they are to save. Let's clear the board before I do the other half. Fat is no longer smoking. It's going to sizzle when I put these in, no doubt. Yep. Okay. Put the heat back on our pan then, since there's something in there to take up the extra heat. So our bacon fat doesn't scorch. You really don't want fats to smoke in a pan if you can help it, because the smoking itself is not bad. But smoking occurs at the same temperature as the reactions that create free radicals in your oils. And that is why the general rule of a smoke point is a good guideline. Okay. Get y'all in here. So with this much leek, we probably don't need much onion. In fact, we might throw in a shallot as a less oniony option, because leeks are pretty oniony as it is. Okay, that stuff's going to take a little bit of time to sort of simmer away. We've got plenty of time to think about everything else we're going to do here. I want some celery in there. Celery is a nice aromatic. I've got this really weird, I've had this weird shaped celery and I've been kind of avoiding using it. I actually took it out of its package, stripped away all the outer layers to see what I was working with. And look at how this has grown. It's so bizarre. We're going to save the leaf tops. That one decided to split itself. And we're not going to save the weird super fibrous bottoms. Hi, Saizan. Right? This is one of the weirdest celeries I've ever seen. Celery leaves are also a good herb. So I will reserve them, and we can consider putting them in later alongside some parsley, or instead of parsley even. Also Cizan, you're first. Also Cizan, thank you for the moisten. I will get to that in just a hot second. Where'd my glass of water go? There it is. There it is. Thank you for the moisten. Moist. So while we're getting this started, story time. Story time for me. I went to the eye doctor today. First time since, and they had the record of the last time I was there, first time since 2015 that I've been to an eye doctor. And when I was there last, I didn't get new glasses. Because I didn't need them. So, did that. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to our leeks and celery to get them, help them sweating down. The story is, I still don't need new glasses, except that these glasses are incredibly old and beat up. My prescription is the same. I even mentioned to the doctor, I feel like I'm probably like one tick off, but it could be the scuffed up glasses that are causing it. And she put me through my paces and said, nope, your prescription is exactly the same. So my prescription is exactly the same. Fancy. I don't know how common that is, but what do you know? My prescription's been basically the same since I was in my early 20s. I think since at least the past 15 years. But I need new glasses regardless. Just because the pair I'm wearing are so old and beat up. We're gonna throw shallot in this because I want some onion, but I don't need a ton, and the leeks are bringing a lot of flavor in that regard. And also because I need to use up these shallots, because vegetables can't sit around as long in the summer as they do in the winter on account of it being hot. And then they surprised me by saying, oh, and your insurance covers eye care, which caught me off guard. I didn't know about that. Happy to hear it. So I guess my insurance covered. And then they directed me over to the table with the special selection of insurance frames, because the insurance covers certain frames. And then they sent me on my way with no bill. Well, with a bill that said you owe $0 at the bottom, which is exactly what I would want. But when the system works, it works. I wish the system worked more often. Oh, that's a spicy shallot. Oof. Yeah, I didn't think the insurance would cover it, but what do you know? What do you know? I'm gonna have to check out what else the insurance covers that I didn't realize that I've been putting off. Because I knew about basic medical, but oops. But they even said when I showed up that they offered the It was, here's the standard thing. Also, we do imaging, but your insurance typically doesn't cover it. And then they checked and they said, oh, your insurance covers the imaging. So even the thing that they went out of their way to say would cost extra and the insurance wouldn't cover it, my insurance covered it. So that was a pleasant surprise. That's my fun story. Good story today. Today's story time was good story time. It is good insurance. I didn't think it was going to be quite that good of an insurance. What else do we add to this? We've got celery leeks and shallots cooking in bacon grease. I think I want to add a little bit of butter to it because I think we have an underfatted pan at the moment. And it's probably going to need some butter later anyways. So we're going to throw in a knob of butter. All that stuff wants to cook down a bit. Again, I'm sort of hybridizing a fish stew with a clam chowder. I guess we're leaning toward the clam chowder side, but I'm kind of making stuff up. When should I add my liquids? Clam juice. Ooh. That means we have to juice our clams. I'll be using canned clams today. 'Cause I don't really feel like going for whole clams and getting liquid out of them. Oh my, look at them go. They smell like they've been in clam brine. Let's pop the lid back down and see how much liquid we get out of them by doing it this way. That's a lot of clams. That's a lot of clams. And that gave us just shy of a cup of clam juice. How much stock does this recipe want if I'm using it as a touch point? 1 cup of broth and 8 ounces of clam juice, which is a cup. So 2 cups of liquid here. So we'll take my remaining homemade shrimp stock and see if this gets us up to 2 cups. Give it a sniff, make sure it hasn't gone off, and it has not. It still smells like nice shrimpy juice. That puts us about 1 ounce short of 2 cups, which is pretty darn on the nose where I want it to be. I'm going to supplement the last ounce with some mushroom stock, also homemade, which is going to affect the color of our dish. This guy, and I'm going to hold this one up to the other camera here so you guys can see it. This guy, this is mushroom stock, and that At the bottom is mushroom sediment that has settled out since I put it in this jar. Also, let's open the jar and make sure there's nothing floating on top of this guy. And there is not. Ooh, it smells really good. I can't remember what all was in this, but there was lots of different things in this, and I wanted to save it. We cooked something in this, and I can't remember what it was now. So we're just going to add a bit. This one is much richer than the other one, and I reduced it quite a lot. So a little bit should go a long way in the case of that one. Again, we need to remember to use that up. If you make a stock, you got to use it. It doesn't keep nearly as long as the packaged stuff does, because the packaged stuff is filled with A, salt, and B, a bunch of preservatives, so that it can be stable, so that they can sell it. Homemade stock, if it's really high protein stock, like a chicken stock or a bone stock, it'll often not even keep a week in the fridge, and then you really have to freeze it. And I did that with my chicken stock. I froze chicken stock. This lower protein stuff keeps a bit longer, I've noticed, but it still gets skunky. You can freeze it. The issue is freezing it in a glass container, you risk breaking the container. Even if you leave some headspace, I did this once. I froze a bunch of turkey stock, and even though I left some headspace, it had enough pressure on the sides of the jar that getting jostled in the freezer caused one of them to shatter. And then I had a block of frozen turkey stock just sitting loose with some shards of glass around it, which wasn't great. So you can freeze it. When I froze my chicken stock, I poured it into an ice cube tray. I reduced it a lot, and then I poured it into an ice cube tray, froze it, and then I had cubes, super concentrated cubes that I've used a bunch of times, and I think we're officially out of them. Oh no, I've got one. I got one left. So this is my last one. This is a block of chicken stock that really, really gels strongly. So it's very, very concentrated chicken stock, and I made it using a fancy like cocktail ice cube tray. So they're these big, like 1.5-inch cubes. We're gonna add my stock to my vegetables and start turning this into a soup. Or Ziploc bags. You could probably freeze it in Ziploc bags. That's actually a great idea. Because the plastic bags are very flexible, and they won't, as long as you don't stuff them full, they won't. They shouldn't have any problem in the freezer. You know, I didn't put any garlic in there, and now it's too late to add fresh garlic. We might give it a shake of garlic powder. Bay leaves. Oh, you know, I was gonna get a bay plant. Bay leaf. You put it in soups, and you hope it does something. I was gonna get a bay plant, and then I forgot. Probably too late now. But I am gonna add a little bit of garlic powder so that we have garlic powder. I know there's technically an order to all this, but I'm kind of ignoring it. I'm just looking at things they suggest in here. Minced garlic, I didn't put that in, so we've got the garlic powder in there in its place. I wouldn't add minced garlic now to the liquid that it's already been turned into a soup. Turn the heat up a little bit. We want this to come to a boil. Oh, actually, they wanted me to make a roux before I added the broth, but after I cooked the vegetables. We don't have to do that. We can instead put some potato starch in the milk. There's milk in this, right? Well, there's milk in my version. How was there no milk in this? This is a milk sauce, a milk soup. Half and half. They're using half and half. They're using quite a lot of it too. We're using milk. They don't have any half and half. If you want it to be creamier, do it yourself. But since we're using milk, I can easily measure out our milk now, add some potato starch to the milk, and then as we cook the milk later on in the soup, the hydrated potato starch will thicken up. Instead of building a roux, we lose out a little bit on the flavor of a roux, but I don't think we were making a dark roux anyways, because that would spoil the bright whiteness of the chowder. So I'm just going to throw in a roughly heaping tablespoon of potato starch into my milk. Get that hydrating. Take a peek at our bread. Ooh, it's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. Oop, my potato starch sank. Chopstick. Poke around until you find the lump. We're gonna take the we're gonna get another bowl dirty. We're gonna get a bowl dirty because I want to be able to whisk this. And my potato starch is sinking to the bottom. Should we put carrots in this? Not too late to put carrots in this. They would just kind of be boiled carrots. They wouldn't add to the base, but they wouldn't be bad. We've come to a simmer over here on the stove. We're going to let that simmer a bit. We're going to push the bay leaf down in there. Get in there, bay leaf. Bay leaves are one of those things where they probably do something. Okay, doesn't need a lot of whisking, just needs a bit of whisking to make sure that it is actually all in there. Debating whether I want to add some sour cream and a little bit more milk. because this was supposed to be half and half according to the recipe, so ours will be a little bit less rich, but I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. We're just kind of making it up. It doesn't need to be perfect. When does this thing add it? We should check on our bread real soon. Oh, add the milk now. It wanted me to add the milk right now, so let's do that. Oh, I should have changed the camera angle on you there. There's our soup. There's what our soup looks like after I have added the milk. The clams are really already ready to eat. You can eat them right out of the can. They come pre-cooked. But I didn't say I was making clam chowder. I said I was making fish soup. So I'm going to add some fish to my soup. You know what? I'm not going to add the fish yet. I'm going to let the soup simmer away a little bit, and we're going to do the bread so that it can get in the oven, and then I can play with the soup while the bread is baking. Some dough under my board somehow. Okay. Thoroughly clean off Okay, okay. Because our bread has gotten noticeably bigger. I haven't been watching the Twitch panel at all. Oh, I've been moistened. Thank you for the moisten. Moist. Here's our bread. Here's our dough. We're going to follow the basic directions from the last time. So we're going to flour our worktop. Generously, because this was a sticky dough. I'm going to flour the top of the dough. And I'm going to flour both of my hands. And then we're going to get in on this dough. Gently turn it out. it's a sticky boy. And then we're not cutting it in half because we're making a smaller bread this time. We're making one instead of it being a big loaf that we have to make two of. So it wants me to kind of shape it and fold it over on itself a couple of times. Actually, I like to fold it this way so the previous seam goes inside. Flip it over. Oh, see, that seam's not holding. Seams need to kind of hold together, I think. And I want to punch out any of these. Personally, I want to punch out any of these larger bubbles that appear. Get this guy. Do it this way. Really kind of push the interior into the interior. I'm literally just making this up. I'm literally just making this up based on other breads now that I've made. It gives us kind of a seam at the bottom, and then a nice sort of smooth top and a fruit fly. Get away from my bread, fruit fly. What the heck? He smells the yeast, no doubt. And since we're only making one of these, we're gonna use the small pan. We cornmealed it last time, and I feel like that was a bit of a waste because the cornmeal just all fell off once it was done baking. So I'm going to lightly flour it instead. Gently put this guy on it. Keep him shaped. What's dripping? Oh, I know what's dripping. There's a small amount of water in the lip of the pan from when I washed it earlier today. Get away from my bread, fruit fly! The heck? And it's leaking out because the pan is now lying flat, so it's a different angle. Because I use this small pan a lot. And there is our loaf on its pan. I don't think it's ready to go in the oven. I think it needs to rise just a little bit more. But I believe we are essentially at the stage of it being done. I should slit the top, probably just before I put it in, to ensure that it does not rip along the bottom as it tries to expand. Was this a steam bath? Recipe? No. No, this wasn't a steam bath recipe. Some of these bread recipes require a steam bath. I need a new steam bath. Mushroom miso oatmeal sounds great to me. I love the idea of savory porridges, and that's what that is. Are you asking how I would make it, or just if it sounds like a good idea? Because I have some thoughts, if you would like them, about process. Okay, well, let me know how it goes. Let's get my very sharp knife. Give our rustic loaf a good, healthy slash right down the center to control its splittage. And we're going to dust the bottom of the tray off so that we don't have burning flour falling onto the coils. And then we're going to put it in the oven and make bread. Become bread. Okay, timer, 25 to 30 minutes. Last time we underbaked it. I will be keeping an eye on the timer this time to ensure that we give it at least the recommended quantity of time from the other day. But also, I felt like it was underbaked. Let me sort out my flour disaster. I'm going to have to vacuum the kitchen after this. There's flour everywhere. Our soup came to a nice boil, and so I turned it down while we were... I turned it down just a moment ago without saying it, but our soup is currently at a low boil, down from a rolling boil that we had moments before. As soon as I get this flour cleared up, wash my hands, or at least vigorously rinse off my hands, we're going to move back over to the realm of the soup. Okay. Because I was just about to, before I did the bread, we were just about to deal with stuff on every side of my boards. Fish. I have, very reflective, a frozen haddock log here, in multiple layers of plastic. I don't want to use the whole thing. But no, in terms of, do you think mushroom miso oatmeal would work? Yes, I 100% think that would work. It's a savory porridge mix is what you've got going on there. What we've got here is, you can see by the weird colors on it. What it is it's fillets of haddock that have been kind of mashed together into a log and then frozen. So if I cut it, you can see that chunk wants to come off because that's not the same part of the fish as the other part. But I want chunks, so doing it this way should be okay. If I wanted nice, neat fillets, this would not be a good method. But since I want just kind of chunks, this should be fine. When I first got this, I thought, wow, those are some really big haddock loin pieces, because they look a lot like cod loins when they're all frozen together. But of course, haddocks aren't that big. To get a piece that size out of a single haddock, the haddock would have to be like the size of a tuna. And haddocks aren't that big, so if I had just thought about it, it'd be like, oh, that makes sense. That it's just been mashed into a log. Because I tried frying part of it once, and it doesn't behave like a cod loin. It's not one piece of fish. We're going to save the other half of it, though. I don't want the whole thing to be used right now. We will freeze up. We'll refreeze, or rather, it's still frozen, but we'll put this in the freezer before it thaws out. The other half is another thing that I just need to use up as well. I've had it now for a couple months. Pop over here. We will throw those in. They will rapidly drop the temperature of our soup, but they need to be cooked. Unlike the clams, which are ready to eat, this stuff is not. It's still raw, and thus it needs to be simmered until cooked through. We also need to remember to stir this so that we do not burn anything onto the bottom, as this is not a nonstick pot. It can and probably will stick at the bottom. Okay. Temperature back up because I want this to come back to a simmer. Ensure that we can get those guys cooked through the middle. Anything else go in clam chowder or Norwegian fish soup? Now, the Norwegian style fish soup has eggs in it to help thicken it. So it's going for an egg thicken. And I looked at that one, and then I did research about what to use for the egg whites, and I decided I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to go through the trouble of making a souffle. Using egg whites. We'll make a souffle someday, but I don't feel like the middle of summer with the air conditioning running and all the rest of this going on, that it's a good time for souffle. The only other thing I think of on the top of my head that goes in clam chowder is a lot of black pepper. Let's add some seasoning because it improves the taste. You know, seasoning flavored seasoning. It's everyone's favorite flavor. I'm also going to add a splash of Worcestershire sauce and a whole bunch of black pepper. In fact, I'm going to grind the black pepper using the mortar here. That's why I got it out. We're also gonna have to taste the soup before serving it, just because you gotta know what it tastes like. We should be tasting it while we're making it. Okay. Before the pepper mill was invented, this is how you had to grind your pepper. And if I want a lot of black pepper, this is still how I grind my pepper, just because it's quite a bit faster, although also quite a bit more labor intensive. But it's quite a bit faster than getting the same amount of pepper by grinding it from the pepper mill. Is good, but it could be better. You did the speed run. Now, I would say yes. Between the time it took you to ask me about it and the time when you said you were tasting it, is faster than I would take to make it if I was going to make it tasty-licious. I've made savory, specifically mushroom oatmeal before, and when I made it with miso was the only time I thought it was good. Our soup, I think, is trying to scorch on the bottom. That's possibly the potato starch. But the thing about miso is the flavors in miso are not very heat stable. Temperature down on this. They're not very heat stable, so that's why when you make miso soup, you don't add the miso to the boiling broth. You take the broth off the boil, and then you stir the miso in, because at boiling temperature, you lose some of the flavors in the miso. What else we got? We're not adding potatoes. Yeah. Since we're not adding potatoes, all we need to do is make sure that our fish chunks, oop, I was on the complete wrong angle that whole stirring time. We need to make sure the fish chunks are cooked. We'll throw in some fresh parsley and some fresh celery tops right at the end for some color contrast and some texture. That's probably also a factor. I would use, if I was doing it, I would have used slow oats. Either rolled oats or cut oats. I gotta figure out what to do with these things. These cut oats. Quaker brand steel cut oats. They look like this. And they take a lot longer to cook, and they're very chewy when they're done. I don't think they're good as a breakfast cereal option, so I'm not sure what to do with them, which is why I've still got so many of them. Garlic and onion powder for speed. Yes, garlic and onion powder are kings of shortcut flavor. You want to add flavor to something? Garlic and onion powder. That's why it's in so many packaged things. Because it's just a really quick, easy way to jam some savory flavor into anything. And I, at this point, keep garlic and onion powder on hand all the time. They garlic powder. I say this every time I use it. Garlic powder has a different flavor profile than. Oh, I keep forgetting to move back over. Has a different flavor profile than fresh garlic. So I don't think that they are even really competing. They're different ingredients. I've often added fresh garlic and the garlic powder to the same dish because I want both of those different characters in there. Let's add a whole mess of clams. The clams are pre-cooked. When you get canned clams like that, you can eat them right out of the can. They're ready to go. So the clams are pre-cooked. They just need to be warmed and kind of infused into the soup. Which we are going to have on a low simmer. Because I think our fish chunks are looking pretty good. I should taste test this soup before I say the soup is good. Spoon. Our soup is a little watery. Very flavorful. Very flavorful. This is going to be a good soup to have with some fresh, crusty bread to sop up that flavor. See, this is the time in which, if I had done the full grand version of today's idea, I would be starting a souffle. That was good. That was pretty easy to put together too. Aside from the fact that I used two long cook stocks, two different long cook stocks in it. It's not terribly salty either, which I'm glad at. Neither of my homemade stocks are salted. If you make your own stock at home, don't salt it. Use it before it goes off, or freeze it before it goes off. And then when you add it to stuff, you can control the salt level. Packaged stocks have so much excess salt in them to make them shelf stable that it makes it harder to control the saltiness of your finished dish. I do want to add some butter to it. I think it needs to be a little creamier. And you'll remember that I'm using just milk and not either heavy cream or half and half. So we're adding a little bit more butter fat to our mix here. To kind of richen it up a little bit. I keep forgetting. I froze all those ramps, and I keep forgetting to reach for them. That would have been a nice add-on too, is to throw one of those little ramp cubes in right at the start to get it in there, to get it infused. Ah well, c'est la vie. We also might add a little bit more starch to it if I feel like it needs to be thickened, because I don't think it needs to be reduced flavor-wise. I think we just need to let it kind of simmer and get to know itself. I haven't commented at all on the fact that I've had a cast iron back here. And in fact, it has now completely dried off its surface, and I can hang it up. Made a fried catfish yesterday, and I used that pan for it. Which was dry on the top, but not quite on the bottom. Because it was short-dated catfish. Yes, I only posted that catfish in one place on not even my own Discord, the friends Discord. So almost no one got to see that catfish. I should post it around. It was cheap, short-dated catfish, so I wanted to use it, and I had to use it right away. So I couldn't wait for today. It would have been old. I got flour all over my mouse. That's not good. I should put it everywhere. I've got a large stock of old pictures that need to be put on my Instagram, and I started putting up some old ones, and with the idea of I'll put up one a day so that there's this constant sort of churn of things appearing on the Instagram. And then on the second day, I forgot to do that. And then I was like, oh, crap. And since I forgot, I haven't gone back to it. I should just put up a ton of them, right? That doesn't reward you. The social media platforms reward you by constantly interacting, not by interacting a whole bunch in short bursts. But if I don't do it all in once, I feel like I'm just going to forget again. Jen Carbon. Jen Carbon. I had my back turned. I didn't see you come in. Welcome in. The bread is in the oven, and we are currently tending our fish soup. Ooh, you're eating dinner. What did you make? I always want to hear about other people's dinners. What have you done? What have you done? But in a good way. We're going to get out some parsley because I want to throw in some parsley. Garlic herb chicken breast, quinoa in chicken broth, arugula salad with beets and northern beans. Well, speaking my language there. We're going to take all the leaves off of these parsleys. Throw the stems in now while it's still kind of bruddling and get them cooked down so we don't have to throw away our stems. Because you can always eat parsley stems. They just need to be cooked a little bit longer than the leaves. The leaves go very, very fast. The stems take a little bit longer. I probably should go out and grab some chives too. I think some fresh chives would be a good finisher. Sizan was just telling us about their mushroom miso oatmeal. And of course, you can all see what I'm making. It's this soup. Okay, these are just parsley stems. We're gonna dig down to the bottom, make sure we're not burning. The color contrast of those bright green parsley stems against the dark green cooked to death leeks is very appealing, actually. It doesn't quite show up on the camera, but it's nice in person. Different levels of greenness in my soup pot. Yeah, we're using up leek tops. First thing that went in the pot was leek tops, frozen leek tops, because you can eat the tops of leeks. They just need to be cooked longer than the bottom bits. And in something like this, where I'm stewing them, the only real difference is that they're a darker color when they're in the finished soup. Got my little tiny scissors. I'm going to jump outside and grab some chives. The old herb garden is having a great time out here. It's been loving the warm weather, and we recently got quite a lot of rain as well. In addition, a thing that I thought I had lost has in fact come up vigorously. The red shiso that had volunteered itself into my back alley, and I saved some seeds. I had thought that we had lost the entire batch of them because they didn't sprout. However, I was mistaken, and I got confused as to which tray was which. So what happened was the store-bought tarragon seeds had a 100% fatality rate in my garden, and it was the gnarly volunteer red shiso from the back alley that was coming up vigorously. So that was good. The wine caps definitely impart interesting colors to their to things you put them in. What's our time looking at? We're at 25 minutes on the loaf of bread. I'm going to take a peek. Whoa! Whoa. Okay, so it's looking a little dramatic in there. I don't want to take it out fully until it's fully baked. I feel like we should have given it a water bath, a steam bath, because it has kind of that pale exterior. And I think a steam bath would fix that. I think that's the issue I have with that. It's just that it needs a steamer. I need a dedicated oven steam tray that is made out of something that won't rust, because the one I've been using has in fact deplated the nonstick coating and is rusting. And pretty much all I've done with it is use it as a water bath. As for Woe, I'm hesitant to take it out. I'm hesitant to take it out right now because I felt like it was underbaked last time. So I think I wanted to give it the remaining couple of minutes. We're going to instead finely chiffonade our celery leaves and add them to the soup. So I guess stay tuned for the results of Woe, because that surprised me. That surprised me. Okay, celery tops get stirred in, scrape down the sides, scrape down the bottom to ensure we're not sticking. We're sticking a little bit. I'm positive it's the potato starch that keeps trying to stick at the bottom. I wish the soup was thicker. It's getting there, but it's been a little bit split this whole time. It kind of coats a spoon. It tastes like a good chowder. Whatever it looks like, it tastes the right way around. So let's add in our parsley, and I guess take the soup off the heat, because I don't think we're going to get much more progress on the soup front. Let's take the bread out of the oven. It's been 30 minutes. Let's take the bread out of the oven. I'm going to show you Woe. Oops. So here's my bread. It completely ignored the split at the top and ripped itself a new one right across the side. Also, it's real tall. In terms of the size and goodness of the bread, it looks good. In terms of the color, I think it needs that steam bath. In terms of ripping across the side, why did that happen? I gave it a spot, and it was like, no, I don't want that spot. Rip. Very rustic. And yes, it got huge. I need to pick it up and thump it. You can see the, oops, you can't see. The creases at the bottom where all the folds were. But we need to pick it up and thump it. Sounds nice and hollow, and it's nice and hard on the outside too. So I think we're done. I think 30 minutes is just right. Let's get it on a rack. So it can chill out. And so I can show it off to the camera a little bit better. So there's the side that ripped open. And there's the other side. From this side, it looks pretty good, except that it was supposed to rip along that top seam. Sounds nice and hollow. It's taller than the last time we tried it. And I think I'm gradually learning. We're gradually learning how to bread without following the perfect recipe. And that's what I really want to get to, where I can just whip together a loaf of bread for my own needs. The bread last time was good, but it was way too much. So it's not quite a boule, but it did rise very nicely. It's very hot. I hope it's not too dense in the middle too. That was the other thing I was worried about. It was a little bit too dense. The crumb was super tender, but well, I didn't want a boule. That's the thing. I have a Dutch oven, and I've made a boule-shaped bread before. I wanted a more oblong loaf. Because I find it easier to slice for slices for things like sandwiches. I don't particularly like using the shape of a boule for the things that I like to use bread for. The Dutch oven also helps because you can put the lid on it and then it creates its own little steam bath. I know that. Having steam in the oven or having steam in contact with the surface of the bread while it's baking is what gives you that nice golden brown outer crust without having to put a wash or anything on it. But this guy just kind of this guy didn't want to go long. He was long when I put him in there. And he just kind of went boop, boop. He bulged out his sides to make himself round, and he just popped straight up to make himself a boule. Oh well. It is the right amount of bread. This is a good amount of bread for me. So now we just need to work on technique, I guess. I would love to cut into it. It does need to rest. But I would love to cut into it to see what it's doing inside. Do it. Do it. Make bread. Everyone should make their own bread. Making your own bread is cheaper than buying bread. I'm going to add a whole mess of parsley to this thing now. And take it off the heat. I think we're done simmering our fish soup. The chives are going to be decorative along with the chicken bacon. Remember the chicken bacon from way back at the start? Of course you do, because you were all here watching from the very beginning when I briefly mentioned chicken bacon and then didn't mention it again for 2 hours. The soup is thickened up a lot too, to the point where even though it's not coating things super well, it is thick. It's both thick and split somehow. And that's got to be because I put the potato starch in there, which is holding it together, even though the fats want to split. Chicken bacon. It's been sitting here waiting for us this whole time, on the side. It's you can hear it. They're hard like bacon bits. Oops, and I dropped a bunch of them immediately. They're hard like bacon bits. It's chicken skin from a grilled chicken thigh that was kind of gummy, kind of unpleasant when I was eating the chicken thigh, so I just tore it off. But I didn't want to throw it away. I didn't want to discard it, so I did experiment. I did an experiment with it. I cut it into real thin strips, threw it in the pan, threw it in a small pan, pretty much just by itself, and fried it up until it was crispy like bacon bits. And then I stuck it in this jar to save for later. It tastes like chicken. It has a texture of like chewy bacon bits. Hi, Peach. That's what this is. This is chicken bacon. And it's a little spicy, a little smoky on account of the marinade that was on the chicken when it started its life on the grill. Plating today is going to be extremely simple. We're going to get a pot of soup, a bowl, and a ladle. And we're going to go like so. Make sure to get some of our big fish chunks in there. The fish stew, the fish soup. So we started with bacon fat and the leek tops in the pan. We added to that some celery. We reserved the leaves of the celery and some shallots and some salt. Cooked that down for a while until everything was really sweated out and nice. And then I added to that, I measured out how much juice was in our can of clams, and we had just shy of a cup. I added to that the remaining shrimp stock from the project the other day, which brought us to 1 ounce shy of 2 cups. So I filled in my remaining ounce with some mushroom stock that I also made myself. And I still have some, so I can show that one to you, but we've used up all of the other stock. So, oops. This mushroom stock with the mushroom sediment at the bottom, there's just a bit of that in there. And 2 cups of milk into which I pre-stirred some potato starch to help thicken the soup. We let that simmer for a while. I added a whole mess of black pepper to it, a couple dashes of Worcestershire sauce, and a couple dashes of flavored seasoning, and some garlic powder because I forgot to add fresh garlic before I added the liquid. And then the fish that's in it is haddock. I have some frozen haddock that I cut into chunks, threw that in there. And then when I was satisfied that that was cooked through, we dumped the clams in, and the celery tops, the parsley, and then we topped it with chives and chicken bacon. And that's what we have here. And we made a loaf of bread, which I really want to cut a piece of the bread. I really want to cut a piece of the bread to have with the soup. That was kind of the idea. But I knew all along that I would never be able to do that. I would never be able to. I mean, because the bread has to rest. If you cut into a bread too soon, it messes up the interior. It doesn't have time to stabilize it. So sadly, the bread's only been out of the oven for 20 minutes, and this is a pretty thick loaf, so I don't think we're going to be able to cut into it just yet. Let me go check on my camera station, because we are going to have to take pictures of the nonsense here. We almost used this thing today, but then we didn't. So yeah, the bread will have to be reserved for the leftovers. I'm pretty happy with how that bread turned out, honestly. Aside from the pale top and the weird split. The weird split has to be a fluke, because it's not even like one of my folding seams. It's just kind of it just kind of ripped. It must have hardened off the seam that I cut too quickly for it to rip there. Ah, well. Yeah, I just picked up a fresh Daikon. But you also want me to taste this thing, right? So, since I decorated the top with chives and chicken bacon. Oh, the bowl is very hot. Let's grab. Where did I put that? There it is. Let's grab our pictures. Ooh boy, my air conditioner has been fighting with the heat today. We're back. Okay, you of course want me to taste the soup so we can all enjoy. You can enjoy it vicariously, and I can enjoy it immediately. Get all the bits and pieces in here. No, it works fine. It's just that it's on the sunny side of the house, and it's been quite warm today, so it's putting in a lot of work. Okay, first of all, it's hot. I did blow on it, but it's still hot. So it's very peppery. It's rich and savory. It's not super creamy. I think if we'd done it with a roux and used a higher fat dairy from the get-go, we could have made it really like creamy. It doesn't have the mouth feel of a cream soup. It has the mouthfeel of just a thick stew. It has the flavor of a cream soup, but it doesn't coat your mouth the way a cream soup does. The fish pieces are just fall apart tender, but they still retain their flavor when you bite into them. When you bite into them, you can taste the fish distinct from the surrounding soup, so they haven't been completely stewed away. Hot. And they flake apart really nicely. So I wouldn't want to cook the fish any more than this. The clams, I think, are possibly a little bit lost. They're little chewy nuggets, but they're pretty small. I would be tempted to use a larger clam for this. Both because I think they would be a little bit chewier to give you that texture contrast, and that you'd be able to see them in the soup more. All the other flavors, none of them jump out. They've all melded together into this base of this savory, complex soup flavor. So I'm not getting distinct flavors of the celery or the leek or the shallot or any of those other spices we put in there, aside from the black pepper, which is giving us a peppery flavor. But even then, I'm not tasting black pepper. I'm feeling the piquancy of the pepper. The flavor has really melded into the rest of it. Honestly, this really needs a piece of crusty bread because it does not have a lot of texture to it. The chicken bacon helps with that because it is slightly crunchy, slightly chewy. And since we didn't cook it with everything else, it's holding up. So the chicken bacon gives you a nice textural counterpoint to the rest of it. And also a flavor counterpoint because it's giving you this very different meaty, because of the way it was cooked, smoky flavor that's a hard contrast to the rest of the soup. But really, it needs this guy. It needs a nice big slice of crusty bread. Which is exactly what I made it for. I made it to accompany. I made the soup and the bread with each other in. Well, I made the soup with the bread in mind, and boy, does it need it. I haven't taken a photo of the bread yet. Let's just take these remaining chives and throw them in the pot with the rest of the soup. We made enough soup here for probably 3 very generous servings. Possibly 4 slightly less generous but still generous servings. And it's a very dense soup too. You could make a small bowl of this and be pretty satisfied. It's also thickening up a bit as it sits, so that I think is a good sign. I think soups should firm up a bit as they cool off. Yeah. So I'm gonna snooze that ad that's about to come up because I think we're heading into a wrap up. I'm reasonably pleased with the bread, but we won't know for sure until I get inside of it. Hello, fly. The flies have been out lately too. I'm gonna have to track him down in a sec. Oh, there he goes. Get away from me. Well, since we have an uninvited guest, all of a sudden, I guess that is a sign to wrap up, so I can chase him around with a swatter for a while. So bread 2. This time I'm making it up. I made it up, and this is what I made up, and I feel like I should have given it a steam bath, or done it in a Dutch oven. I actually really like the texture on this side, but I wish it had happened right in the middle on the top. Cool enough to pick up. It still sounds hollow. It actually sounds a little bit less hollow now than when I took it out, and I'm worried it might be collapsing a little bit. I guess we'll find out. It was in there for a half hour, and I don't want it to go much longer. It'll start to get overcooked. But as I said, we're making it up. This is an experimental bread. So I'm trying to make my own bread recipe out of it as a very just simple bread. So we will be revisiting the bread in the future, trying to perfect this specific bread, my bread, jovial bread. But on that note, I am going to want to eat this while it is still nice and fresh. Ooh. Someone we have not rated before is just starting. So we're going to jump in very, very early. Phoenix Ashes will be playing games and demos because it is demo season on Steam. So lots of people are playing demos. So I'm not sure what games are going to come up. We will have to ask them when we get there. Because also they're still on the starting splash screen. So they're literally just about to start. So we're going to get in on the ground floor on this one. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Thanks for hanging out. I hope to have more channel news soon. Last week, I've mentioned it on Saturday, but last week I was really struggling for most of the week with some unresolved health issues. But I think we've got them nailed, and we are back in line. And in a couple of weeks, I'll have new glasses too, so that'll be good. Thanks for hanging out. Always glad to see you. I'm gonna have to kill this fly. And I will be back when I'm back, possibly, definitely Saturday. Definitely Saturday. Bye!